Well, I will say this. Anime trends in America are remarkably different from anime trends in Japan. For me, each era is defined by who was translating it. In the Chop Shop era, no mind was given to the original story. Translators basically weren't even translators, they just watched the original Japanese anime and decided to write whatever story in English they wanted. In the Chop Shop age, anime was more inspiration for original content rather than content that was translated and brought over from another country. And you'd be surprised, but a lot of that sticks through to today. You probably remember 4Kids, and Power Rangers still kind of does that with Sentai footage. In the Yellow Sub age, translation was handled by a chosen few. If you were going to make a Yellow Sub tape, you basically needed an editing rig, and that was really rare. Yellow Subbers usually worked in very, very small subbing groups. Usually they tried to translate it alone. And a lot of the subs were inaccurate, sometimes they were overly janky, but they were enough to get the general idea across. But since we only had a general idea, since we weren't sure how accurate the subs were, we all had our own ideas in our brains about what these anime actually meant. We came up with our own conclusions about what characters were saying and doing with basically a skeleton of what the original anime was. And so in this era, anime was all kind of personalized. In the fan sub era, the torrent and streaming era, people were able to get their hands on editing technology much easier. That made subbing groups get bigger, and it made translations more accurate. But it also gave people power, and that introduced the general subbing community to transliteration, to localization. Everyone had a different idea about how literal subs should be. Everyone had a different idea about what should and shouldn't be translated. Everyone also had an idea about presentation. Many subbing groups tried to match the style of their subs to the style of the anime. I mean, you know all those, like, word-arty, After Effects-y style flourishes that attack names got back in those days. This fostered an era of analysis. In order to have a style like that, you needed to analyze an anime and get to the root of its themes and tones. It wasn't good enough just to know the translation of an anime. You needed to know exactly what they meant in context to actually accurately localize it. In our current era, the simulcast era, translation is usually done by professional translation groups. These translation groups work very close with the anime or manga's original creator. And so the era of localization is kind of over. We no longer get those interpretations from people who are translating the anime themselves. Instead, we get a more commercial product that strives to be as close to the original Japanese as possible, while still being accessible for an English-speaking audience. This era has the highest accessibility, but also the highest weight on authorial intent.